There we go. Yeah, I'll give you the option of taking things a little bit softer or a little bit harder, depending on the type of feedback that you want. You're going to make yourself a little trot. Obviously, if you've got your bolster mic, you can use that. But you could use a rolled blanket, a pillow, or what I'm going to do, because I want just a little more sensation, is I'm going to pop a yoga brick and lay a blanket over the top of it. So the top is squishy, but underneath is a little bit hard. So I'll show you, we're going to start side lying with the prop underneath your ribs. And for this, you might want an additional head prop so that you can free up your arm forwards like this, or you could use your arm as a head prop. So if you've gone for what I've gone for, there's going to be a little moment where it's not overly comfortable, because obviously a cork block is a different sensation to a foam block. So give yourself that little bit of time. For the sake of being able to see me better, I'm going to add on a pillow for this one. So, Kate, don't do it on your dodgy side, or use something very soft on your dodgy side. If you want to have your knees bent, because that feels best for you, do so. You could straighten out your legs, and I've got staggered legs here, so I've sort of brought my bottom leg forwards, and then I'm going to just relax the top leg so that that knee bends. So you can play around with this until you can sort of commit into some stillness. And your top arm can rest against your side, or you can actually bring your hand onto your hip or side waist. So just organize it so that you're as relaxed as possible. And if you've got that harder prop underneath you, your feedback is going to be a little bit more instant. So we want to just take a bit of conscious awareness into the top side of the body, the one that's not being squished by the prop. When we breathe down into the prop, obviously if it's squishy, it's easier. So I want you to try and think about breathing into the top side, breathing away from the prop. And if you want to bring your hand there for feedback, you've got sort of like the rib cage area, the bony part where you can just sense if there's some movement there. And you've also got the soft tissue of the side waist between your hip bone and your rib cage. So you could maybe try the hand in both positions for a few breaths, just to see if they're both moving. As you just find your way into that slightly deeper, slightly fuller breath. And of course, close your eyes here if you're comfortable, if you want to. And if you can sense that there's somewhere in this top region that isn't moving, you could always move your hand into that place for just a little bit more feedback. Slow the breath down and really keep your awareness on that top side. And do you feel any movement in the sort of ribs that go round to the back? Any sort of movement underneath the shoulder blade of that arm? And just every time you feel that you start to get a little bit distracted by the prop, stay focused on that breath. I'm just going to take a few more breaths on this side. I'm going to carefully move over onto the back. So again, this is going to take you a moment to find that support underneath your back body. You could have the extra pillow underneath your head if you don't like dropping the head back, or you could go for something that feels just a little bit more intense in a back bend. Make sure this block is underneath your shoulder blades, underneath your ribs. And don't worry too much about the arms, just let them rest. Either sort of out to the sides or they can be on the front body. And it might be a little overwhelming at first. It might, if you've got the sort of larger, harder prop. But we're just going to take 6 breaths here. So when you've settled, just take 6 conscious, slow breaths. Just increasing that front body expansion. And then in your own time, you can just roll yourself over onto that other side. Organize your bottom arm so that it's either supporting your head or reaching out. Make sure the prop is just on the ribs, on the bones. You can organize your legs straight or bent. It can be different on the second side. And if you want to just take that top arm when you're there against your ribs or your side waist and give your body that little bit of time to adapt to the new position. Just breathing into that top side of the body. Sensing if there's movement in the soft tissue and in the ribs. Just every time you get a little distracted or a little more aware of that prop, just think about breathing away from the prop. Do a few more breaths on this side. And then once again, we're going to just roll ourselves back onto the back again. So making sure that your prop is underneath your shoulder blades. Have your knees bent. Have your feet flat to the floor. You're going to lift the head so that you can either interlace the hands underneath the head or just hold the sides of the head. Point your elbows towards the ceiling and you're going to curl up. And at first you can just go up a little because this is, if your prop's quite big, it's quite strong. We just want to work the thoracic spine. And if your prop feels too large, take it away and just roll up part of your mat. So go easy on the first round. So we're segmenting our thoracic spine as we lift up and come down. We're going to do at least 7 or 8 of these. It's some strong abdominal work if you've got, quite a large prop and you're coming up all the way, so you can take it to whatever degree that you want to. And when you've done those 7 or 8 of those, we're actually going to either roll to the side so you can slide the prop out, or if it's easier for you to sit up if the prop's higher, but I want you to come back down on that side. And we're going to use something as a little pillow. Might be the thing that you rolled up. You might want a literal pillow so that you can lay on your side and rest your head on the prop now. And just feel how different it feels, whether your support was small or large, how different it feels to sort of lie down there without any support. And I'm just reaching my arm out of the way, my bottom arm out of the way. Okay, so space depending will sort of dictate how big or small this movement is for you. With your top arm, so you can just do, the front movement, or you can do this in 2 halves. We're gonna do a shoulder car. So I'm gonna reach the arm up, and again, if you've not got any room, we can just do part of this movement. When the arm is in line with the ear, I'm gonna rotate, spin the palm. So as I reach the arm back, we keep spinning, 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 spinning the palm. So as it comes all the way back round next to the hip, that palm is backwards. Okay, if you don't have any room or enough room, you could do the variation of this where you just touch your fingers, not quite the same, but touch your fingers onto your upper arm or your shoulder and sort of rotate through that one there. So see if you can do maybe 3 or 4 of these. Add a little bit more body sort of contraction with each one. A little bit more muscular contraction there to really stabilize the body. And your bottom arm will give you feedback on how much you're sort of moving around. And if you're negotiating furniture, no problem. When you've done that last one, you're going to keep that arm just rested against the side waist and the hand sort of somewhere near the hip. Just let it hang for a moment. Good. And we're just going to do these little reaches around the clock. So I'm going to lead with my head. I'm going to lift my ear to my shoulder, and then I'm going to pull through the hand as I reach as far away from my hip as I can, and then come back down. So that was 6 o'clock. You're going to go forwards with your hand. So you're pointing near your knee, which might be 7 o'clock or 5 o'clock, depending on what side you're on, as you lift to reach up there as you come back down. And then you're going to go it's either 4 o'clock or 8 o'clock, depending on which way you're on, which side you're on, and reach up. And we're just going to slowly make our way around the clock here. Like the arm is being pulled and the body is kind of like responding to that, or the thoracic and the shoulder blade. So big reach in that direction as you move around that half of the clock. And eventually, sort of when we get to 11 and 12, it gets a little tricky. And when we do get to that 12 o'clock reach, you're going to sort of reach the hand away from the hip and sort of push the hip away from the hand to just increase that side stretch there. And just take your time if you're still working your way around the clock. Good. Release that arm back down. If you've got space here, it would just make sense for you to turn around so that you still have that same space for the other side. We'll lay on the side, make sure your bottom arm is out the way. Top arm resting against the hip. And then we'll just begin those sort of shoulder cars, those circles. And if you're not got the space, you can just sort of mobilize your shoulder joint with your fingertips against your shoulder there. So really find that spin, that rotation all the way round. You're only bending your elbow if you have to because of lack of space. Good. So 3 or 4 full rounds, maintaining a little bit of integrity through the body, a little bit more as you go. When you finish, just resting the arm against the hip. And with that arm against the hip, you take your time. If you're still going with your circles, it's fine. You're going to lift with the ear to the shoulder first, and then move the arm away as the shoulder blade depresses down. And then we slowly back down again. We move that arm forward, so reaching. And just sort of hitting. We should reach through 6 points. You could definitely do more than 6, but we'll go with 6 today. Lifting that arm a little higher each time. And if you feel like there's something stopping you, that's cool. You can stop at that point, or you can bypass that point and go to the next time, see how that feels. When you do get to 12, keep that arm reaching and think about just pulling the hip down away from that arm. What can you do in your body to stop it feel like that top side waist is scrunching up? Can you just find a little length? It's almost as though you're reimagining that prop is underneath your rib cage here. To find that stretch, to find that length. Good. And then we'll release that arm back down. We're going to lose the prop underneath the head now. So we're going to come back onto our backs. Oh yeah. Not even made it up to sitting yet. It's good. So you're going to create the space that you need in your left side too. So I'm going to pull my right knee up onto my chest. So I'm going to use my one hand or both hands to do this. And then I'm just going to get that left leg out of the way. So it's not really about straightening that leg out. It's just about getting out of the way. So I'm going to manually circle this hip around. So I'm sort of like stirring a big pot. Like I say, you can use both hands or you can use one hand as you stir it around. And if your whole body's moving, it's fine. Let it happen. So we'll do 4 or 5 in one direction. And then 4 or 5 in another. And then just let go with your arms and continue this circling. So it becomes just a little bit more active. And if it's better for you to have your left knee bent and the foot flat to the floor, then go for it. Good. And then just bringing that knee in towards the chest. Do what you want with your left leg. I'm just going to softly hold with my fingers at the back of that right thigh and just work to find a little stretch, bending, straightening. Oh my goodness, I've been running. Oh, feel that. I've only been running for 3 times. Oh, feel my hammies now. So, doesn't need to straighten. You just need to feel that something's opening up. Good. And then we're going to try this little maneuver. Okay, so the knee's going to bend into the chest again. I'm going to re-bend that left knee so that foot is flat to the floor. And I'm going to cross that right ankle over that left knee. This should be comfortable for most people. If it's not, just pop it on the inside. Okay. So now as I take my arms out to support, I'm going to twist so that I drop the right foot over to the left, still in this cross-legged position, and then drop the knee over to the right. So you have to sort of really heel toe and wiggle around your left foot in order to find this twist. And you can absolutely just repeat this. Just keep on going with this for a few rounds. I'm just going to spin around so it's easier for you to see this, because this is glorious. This is glorious. Next time your right thigh, hang on, comes over to the right, you're going to hold it here like this. So my left foot's lifted up and I'm really trying to get that thigh down. My support leg, watch this. If I straighten that knee away, I release that hip stretch. If I bend the knee and pull it back in, I increase the hip stretch. Okay, so the top of my right thigh, the one I'm stretching, is on the floor. And this just feels good. If that feels weird, you could do it up here. You could do it sort of lying on your back. But you get to anchor and root that hip down if you're down here. So I just want you to pick what feels best in your body. Don't go for sensation in that right knee. Activate that right leg. So what I've done is I've gone from lying on my back over to the right, and the left leg is the thing that's doing the moving here. So it's a bit abdominally. It's quite hippie. See how it feels? And then what you're going to do is you're going to pull that in and that sort of hold that stretched position. With your right hand, take a hold of the outside of your right foot. You're going to roll back onto your back and come into half happy baby with that right leg. Do what you want with the left. Oh yeah. And half happy baby, you might need to change your hold to the back of the thigh or the calf. You don't need to hold that right foot. So you're just going to find your way into that half happy baby. Feel this stretch. Option for the sadist amongst you to change the hold from the outside edge of the foot towards the heel and extend that right knee and stretch out that leg. Again, if that's too far, hold the thigh. Okay, your choice. Just go from half happy baby to a leg stretch. A few breaths. Back to half happy baby. Bend that left knee, recross that right foot over. And just see how it feels. It should have freed up a little bit of space. We're going to do a whole thing on the left side. So uncross that right leg. Either extend the leg out straight or leave it slightly bent. Hug the left knee up in towards the chest and just manually circle it round. Both hands or one hand, whatever's best for your body shape. Have a little double whammy here because you can also release your back with this stuff. So allow for as much movement throughout the whole body as you want to. We'll change the direction of the circles. And then we'll just do those circles actively. So you can let go of the leg. Doesn't matter which direction we do these in. Yeah. And then draw that knee into the chest. Gently just support the back of the leg and explore a little hamstring opening. A little knee open and close. Just go to where it's enough. If you feel there's a lot of resistance, lessen the effort and deepen the breath. Good. And then as you bend that knee, we're going to externally rotate and just cross the foot over that right knee. And then just take the arms wide. And you don't have to go all the way to the floor with these twists at first, just side to side. Your right foot has to just shift and shuffle around a little bit to accommodate this. So if you're like me, you end up migrating all the way down the end of your mat as you do these, so don't worry. Just side to side, free it up. I'll spin round. So eventually we'll end up with that on that left side with that left thigh as close to the floor as we can. And we're just going to release the right leg away, straightening it out and putting it back in. And again, just be led by what feels good. This is some nice deep external hip rotation. If it's too strong on your back, you could just come up upright and pull the knee in and away from you. It's the same movement, we've just added a rotation. Big or little movement. And then keep that leg close as you reach with your left hand. You'll need to then roll back onto your back, keeping that knee in that half happy baby. You could straighten out the right leg along the floor, or you could keep the knee bent. It doesn't really matter. And just sort of anchor your back down as you find the hip opening for this half happy baby. You could stay here, that might feel glorious. You could switch where you're supporting the leg to the back of the thigh, or you could hold around the foot as you explore that straight leg stretch. Again, it's not really about how far it goes, it's about what it feels like. So conscious breath. Bending that leg back to that half happy baby. Re-bending that right knee. And then just rolling back into that position where you hook the leg and just hold down. Just see if it feels a little freer, a little better. Good. And then we're going to unhook the leg. You're going to bring the knees to the chest. You can roll up to seated, up and down on the spine, or you can roll over to seated as you come all the way up. Clap. Yeah. Let's try. Okay, now we'll do it nice. We'll do it nicely at first. I'll do that. So that mermaid seat, that mermaid position, if we have the left leg as the bottom leg and the right leg as the top leg, you could have the right leg over that left foot, or you could pull it back so that you've got a wider base of support. You might need to sit on your prop. It's fine. Your right bum cheek won't be on the floor, or if it is, it will just be lightly touching. Okay, so you're kind of like more lean towards the left. And I just want you to start to rotate your chest round. So you're just going to go from right to left in the chest. And I'm kind of freeing up the arms here as I do this. But you might want to prayer hands here, just so you can really feel where that rotation is. As you twist towards the right, which is the back leg, see if you can drop that bum down a little more. If you feel something in your knee, don't drop it down. And as you twist to the left, keep that right bum cheek down. Just sort of change the intention a little bit here. We're going to turn towards the right. So this is our trailing leg, our back leg. And I want you to see if you can free up the hands. You can either support your hands on your thigh as you drop your bum cheek down, or you can support your hands on the floor. If you're getting pain in that right knee, close the gap. Yeah, bring the knees closer together. Okay, so we're just sort of trying to drop the bum here. So it's like a relaxed little 90-90. And again, just be aware of the knee. Bring the legs closer if that's the case. Good. And then we'll undo. Swing your feet round, come round to the other way. Close kneed or wide kneed base. Don't worry about the bottom butt just yet. Get the legs comfortable and start to explore. Explore rotation. You could even try interlacing the hands behind the head. It gives you a little bit of a different dynamic here. Just see if there's any direction that's a little stuck, or if it feels quite good. We'll eventually end up rotated towards the left leg, the trailing leg. And we'll just bring the hands down. They can, as you sort of drop the bum, you'll need to sort of like have some sort of purchase to increase that twist there. Sense that left knee. How does it feel? Can you relax your bum down? Can you find that little bit of that internal hip rotation? Slowly undo, come back to center. We're just going to move the legs so that you can bring yourself round and find an all fours position. Pad your knees out if you get sensitive knees here, because we're just going to move the feet around a little bit. We're going to move the knees around. You're going to have your inner knees or your inner thighs touching, whatever is the widest point of contact, but you're still going to have your hands underneath your shoulders. So as you kind of like squeeze those inner knees, inner thighs together, separate the feet. So your toes are going to point out to the side. I don't know if you can see from that. Yeah. Oh, already cramp. Okay. And then what I want you to do is I just want you to explore spine movement here. Explore a cat-cow. And throughout the entire movement, whatever is touching in your inner legs, keep it touching. Okay, because there's a bit when we move the pelvis where the thighs want to separate. And it probably won't be as big as a movement that you can normally access in your cat-cow. So just be aware of it. Probably less pelvic movement and a little bit more thoracic is available to you here. Do one more. And then we're going to shift the position to now bring the big toes together. And you can afford to go quite wide with the knees here. So maybe even as wide as the mat, if you can connect those big toes. And we'll do the same thing here. The cat-cow, where you'll probably feel like you've got a little bit more access to the pelvis in this position. Good. Just articulating that spine as best you can, as best as the sort of limitation will allow. Finding your breath. And then your legs are perfectly set up so that you can come down into a child's pose. So just take your time, drop down. If your bum doesn't make it all the way down to your heels, don't worry. You can support your head with your hands or you can slide your hands forwards. In your child's pose, just think about your back body breath. And then slowly come up. Just find a comfortable seat. If you're comfortable on your knees, stay here. So I'm going to give you two choices for this. And this is just really going to depend on your shoulders. Choice one in child's pose is much more difficult. You can have choice 1A or choice 1B and choice 2A, choice 2B. So with a brick or without a brick. So if you struggle a little bit with shoulder flexion, which is really normal, like reaching the arms overhead without the back joining in is hard. It's a tough thing to have. So you're going to sit if you're going to do this one. So I'll just show you quickly. So I'm going to reach the arms up. I'm going to root my bum down. So whether I'm sat in cross-legged or I'm sat in kneeling like I am now, I'm going to bend the elbows and just thinking about bringing the hands, maybe palms can touch or fingertips can touch back as I lift the arms up. Okay, so if you did this with your brick lengthways between your hands, yeah, you're going to push your palms into your brick. It actually feels glorious, but I want to try and pin my elbows where they are. So if I'm down in child's pose, there's kind of nowhere to hide. Yeah, it adds more restriction. So I want you to pick, if you know that your body is going to struggle being down on the floor, which is a normal place to struggle, you can just reach the brick behind you or do it without a brick. And the more you push your hands into the brick, if you're using the brick, I want you to try not to floop your elbows forward. So we're just going to do maybe 5 or 6 of these. Seated people, if you reach your arms up, pin your elbows where they are, bend your elbows and just see if you can tap your thumbs to your back or the back of your neck or the sides of your neck or the upper shoulders, whatever it is. But brick crew, squeeze it. If you're reaching your arms up and you're using no brick, but you can touch your palms together, try that, okay? So I just want you to see, not just flingy, you're creating some strength, you're creating some activation as you do this. Really good. And then after you've done those 6 or so, you can take a pause, you can take a rest. Awesome. And then we're going to try another variation of this. So people who are seated, you might want to join in for this one. It's different. It's not necessarily harder. It's just different. So seated crew, if you want to stay seated, as you bring the hands or the brick down, I want you to think about your pelvis staying where it is, but lifting your chest up. Okay, does that make sense? So I haven't stuck my back out. This stays quite still, but I'm lifting my rib cage up. Yeah. Obviously, the floor crew, instead of child's pose, what you get to do now is you get to lie flat. The brick's going to be forwards, head is down, bend the elbows, touch the brick to the upper back, and lift up, down, release. No brick, no problem. Hands. If you're on the floor, you keep your front ribs down, okay? It's a little easier than what we just did in some respects, but not in others, okay? It's a little bit more back strengthy. So if you are kneeling and you want to stay kneeling, please do. If you want to come down onto your front and try this. If the brick is too strong, too much, just lose it, okay? So as you bring the brick back, then you lift the elbows, the head, the upper chest up, keep the legs down, keep the front ribs down, you come down and then extend those arms, okay? And if the brick is much too narrow, do this with much wider hands and no brick. We're gonna go 6 again. And don't worry about how high you lift. Remember, when you lift up, your elbows are lifting too. So when that brick is behind your head, if you're lying down, brick goes down, then head lifts. So touch the back first with the brick, then lift the head and the arms. Don't lift the head up first. There it is. Yes. Oh, that's horrible, isn't it? Okay, when you've done all of those 6, have that little rest, have that little pause. Well done. And those of you that are lying on your front, you're going to come up to seated again. And you can do this if you have something that, if you don't, it's not the end of the world, but I just want to show you this so you can see that I know that I'm not moving. So if you had a wall, if you had the edge of a sofa or something sturdy, I'm going to place the brick against the widest part of my leg and the wall like this, so it's on the long setting. So have a little look. This leg is going to be my lunging leg. If you don't have a wall, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to use my hip to push the brick against the wall, and then I'm going to interlace the hands at the back of my head and rotate. I'm going to rotate the other way, but you can see that my pelvis isn't moving. So if you think that you've got something handy that you could do that with, even if it's just to have your hip against something like at the edge of a chair or something, it's absolutely fine. Because what we tend to do is when we rotate, we tend to pull the hip back, we tend to shift it back to give us the illusion that we've increased the rotation when we haven't. So if you've got that rooted hip, even if it's the entire edge of your leg pressing against the sofa, you're just aware of when it moves. And again, if hands behind head isn't comfortable, cross the arms in front of the chest, no problem. But we're rotating fully both ways as we do this, fully rotating both ways. Really, really nice. Oh, isn't it blissful? So again, I'm going to suggest about 6 rotations on one leg and then switch it around and try 6 rotations on the other side. You have to like navigate your living room. It's quite fun. If you've swapped sides, just be curious about which side was easier. Should be all sorts of lovely feelings happening down your middle bits. Okay, and then when you've done those, you can come back down to your space. You can bring the brick with you as you come back down into your space. We're going to pop up onto a tall kneeling position. I'm going to hold onto the brick, and please pad your knees out. Use your folded blanket if your knees are a little bit sensitive, cushions or whatever you've got laying around. We're going to take a little slow step forward with our right leg. So we're going to spend that little minute doing our little wobbly balance on our left knee. So try and take a good 5 to 10 seconds. Even if your foot needs to touch down 100 times, if you've got something squishy under your knee, it actually makes it harder. And then we'll land that right foot forwards. So we're in this lunge on the right side. I'm going to press the brick against my chest and then just cross the arms to hold the brick there. So whatever's easiest for you, it might be easier for you to hold the brick like this, might be easier for you to cross them like this. Again, think about keeping this pelvis still, pushing through that left hip bone, that kneeling hip bone, squeeze the brick against you and just lift by sort of thinking of pushing the brick up to the ceiling with your chest and then back down to neutral. So pushing the brick up and down. So my pelvis stays still. My arms aren't doing the lifting. Literally like someone's gone through your back and pushed your sort of bra strap, sorry Mike, region up with the heel of their hand. 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. When you've done that last one, don't worry if you don't have a brick, you're just using your hands. You're going to take the brick if you've got one, reach the brick forward, straighten those arms here. You could stay here. You could reach the arms up and you can bend the elbows again and see if you can just bring that brick near the back of your body. If it touches the top of your head, that's cool, stop there. But if you can, just sit and then see if you can find that same sensation of lifting up here. And try not to let the elbows flare out. Just try and keep them that brick distance apart. Breathing. Good. And then release that brick up overhead. Take that brick and just place it down to the outside edge of your right foot so that it's there when we need it. We're going to do a little maneuver now. So I'm going to tuck under the back toes. You can use your hands on your front leg if you need to. Prop yourself up into a little high lunge. Keep the front knee bent. Pivot, land the back heel so you're in like a warrior 2. Set it up. Give yourself time. Maybe your feet aren't perfect. Maybe you need to move things around. And just work your way into that warrior 2 with your right leg bent. Open your arms out to the side. And then you're going to actually twist your chest away from the front leg. So you're going to twist towards the back leg. So just find that little opening through that backside. So just try to turn more, don't turn your hips, just turn your chest. Keep that twist, that slight twist as you lean towards your right leg, bend your right elbow, pop your forearm against your thigh, keep reaching back and open with your chest. Arm can be reaching back too. And if you have the space in your shoulder, take that top arm, reach it up and over. If your shoulder does not like that, your hand is going to go on your hip. Okay? So just find that side angle, breathe, find that top side opening, and just visualize that your, when we started at the beginning and you had that prop underneath your rib cage, just use your resistance of your forearm against your leg to create the idea that there is still that support of the prop there. Breathe into that top side. And those of you who like to explore a little bit of a deeper lunge with the legs, go for it, but maintain that opening in that top side. Good. One more breath. And then we're going to sweep that top arm up, lift ourselves back to warrior two. We're going to pivot on that back foot, rotate the chest to point to the short edge of the mat and land that back knee softly back down again. Aha, well done. Our brick is there, pick it up, hold the brick and pick up your right foot and do that slow little wiggly, wiggly, wiggle, back to kneeling. Yes. We've got to do the same thing on the other side. So think 5 to 10 seconds. Picking up your left leg. Before you bring it to land it down into that little position there. Stabilize your legs, find the little tuck of the pelvis. Either just use your hands or use your brick as you press the brick between your palms, reach the brick towards the ceiling, bend your elbows, and take the brick to the back. And just breathe into this. See if you can find some push between your palms. See if you can not flare your elbows out. And what's really nice is you can actually like lean your head into your brick and look up slightly if the brick is sort of like underneath the back of the head. It's like, oh yeah. And then as we release, take that brick up, we're going to do slightly different this time. You're going to bring the brick back to the chest where you can cross the other arm over, the weird arm. And instead of going back, we're going to stretch the upper back as you come forward. So you're going to go forward, think about stretching between your shoulder blades, and then up to neutral. Keep tucking the pelvis, right glute is active as you come forwards, and then to neutral. So 4, 5, 6 of these. Your pelvis doesn't move. You've just done a sit-up movement with your brick. Okay, so we're going just forwards and just neutral, no back bend. Just forwards, just neutral, no back bend. Different stretch, different stretch. When you've done your 4, 5, 6 of those, you can take the prop, you can release it down next to your left foot, tuck your right toes under, use your hand if you need to, but pop yourself up to the high lunge, and then just rotate, land the foot, fiddle the feet, warrior two. I'm going to switch sides. Shouldn't wear socks. Set your feet up for warrior two with your left leg bent. Just stack the shoulders over the hips, and then we'll rotate, we'll turn the chest towards the right. So we've added a little rotation in the chest. We keep that rotation as we lean towards the left, so we're trying to pull that right side open. Elbow to thigh, even if you're normally hands to floor, just go elbow to thigh today. And you can keep the hand back, the hand on the hip, or you can sweep the arm over as you feel that opening, that rotation, and that pressing of the right ribs up towards the ceiling. Good. And you can use the forearm prop to imagine your bolster or your support that you had at the beginning. Breathe into that top side waist. Good. And then we'll breathe to come all the way up into that warrior two. Pivot on your back foot as you rotate round. Use your hands if you need to, softly land that back knee down. Good. Pick up that front foot. Have a little awkward balance moment as you come back. Take a seat, take a rest, take a child's pose if you need to. Awesome. So we've got several different ways we can explore this, and you can do this quite statically or quite fluidly. You can make this more difficult or less difficult, and it really depends on what you're in the mood for. So we're thinking about two different openings. We're thinking about front of the heart, and we're thinking about back of the heart. Okay, so that extension of the chest and that flexion of the chest. So we're going to come into a pigeon pose where you can take as much support as you want to for your base, or as little support as you want to. So if I'm going to have my right leg forwards, and you can, I'm going to use my bolster for all my support in my hip, yeah? Or I could take it away and do it hovering. Like, this is totally up to you. So one of these movements is going to feel more easy in your body. So I'm going to find the pigeon, and I'm going to find the sort of like royal pigeon lift of the chest for a few breaths. Those of you who want that little bit of extra juice, you could find that movement that we did with the brick, and you could add in that lift of the head. Okay, that's your position one. And then your position two is to find that fold forwards. But I want you to allow for the back to open. Hold on, I just want to show you. Then you've got the fluid and moving option, which is to cross the arms and to sort of come forward. You could use your brick here or lift up. But you might want to explore all of those, all right? So fluid and moving, or a few rounds of breath in your sort of like king pigeon chest, followed by a few rounds of calm in your forward fold. You might need some more pillows. I don't know. You kind of have to get it. So I'm just going to go into it from all fours, bringing that right knee forwards to the right, landing the bum on the prop. Hands to chest is lovely. So I've got it stretched down that leg, or brick overhead. For the crew who just like it a little spicier. All right, you're on your own with this, so just don't worry about anyone else. I just want you to find a chest lift. In then a little forward fold for a few breaths, and you can sort of like, after you've tried an opening and a closing of the chest, do you want to move back and forth through them? Do you have a preference? Do you want to hang out in that preferred one for a little bit longer? Okay, so if you've come down and you're like, I like being open, I like being expansive and breathing today, then come back to that for a few breaths. There's no right, there's no wrong. Sometimes the thing we don't like is the thing we need. Sometimes the thing we don't like it for a reason. So you can obviously come into side 2 whenever you feel ready, whenever you're like, yeah, that's enough of side 1, just switch the legs over. Take enough support to make it not so much about what your hips are doing, more about what your spine is doing. So make sure your base is comfortable before you start moving your spine around. I forgot to tell you something that was probably really essential, is that you can just keep your fingers down. You can keep your hands down, or you can keep your hands against your front leg. If you're finding it difficult to sort of move props and stuff, just use the floor. If you found a sweet spot and you want to hang there, then hang there. Okay. When you've sort of explored that second side, I want you to bring yourself into a seat, so don't rush, and I want you to sit on something, whether that's a block or a cushion or a folded blanket, and I want you to make sure that you're comfortable on that seat. Okay. So any legs, any support. And we're going to just sort of try this really lovely breath that I was introduced to the other day. If you take your hands, and you can either wrap your thumbs around your ribs, or I'm just going to set my hands to the front of the lower ribs. So you just want to feel that, the band of ribs here. And quite often we think about inhalation as sort of lifting the chest. But what we're going to do is we're going to think about inhalation and breathing into the back of the heart, so that when I inhale, my fingers move closer. And when I exhale, my fingers move apart. So the movement, the initiation of your breath is into the back of your heart to give you that space there. So we're not lifting the front body, we're widening the back body as we inhale. So see if you can find that sense. Even if you're manually moving stuff with your fingers, it's fine. And they call this breath the giving your heart a break. So keep going. Do a few more breaths. And then just releasing your hands after you exhale. We're going to go from here into Shavasana. We can do some releases first. So just gather what you need. You're dropping your lights down, drop your lights down. Make sure you've got a blanket. Make sure your feet are going to be warm enough. And if you feel that your body needs you to do anything else before you get into your Shavasana, if you need any movements, any releases, then do them. And you don't have to be on your back or the front or your side. You can just be wherever you're most comfortable. Allow yourself to find stillness. And stay connected to your breath. Maybe you're still thinking of breathing into the back of the heart. Just stay connected to that slow, steady pace of your breath. And sense the breath in the back body. Maybe feeling the breath as your back moves against the floor. Feeling more contact with the floor on your inhalations. And feel how your front body is quiet. And how everything in the front body is quiet, that your abdomen is soft, your pelvis is soft. Your throat is soft and your face is soft. That your mind can be quiet. And as you let go of effort to breathe into the back body, just feel how the breath naturally wants to move there. And that back body sensation just brings you into now. Not worrying about what's ahead, what's in front. Just dropping into that support of the floor, of a very present moment. And just giving yourself time. I will leave you here. Namaste.